core values are more than just what we do. I want you to think of it as also what motivates us to live out all the things that we accomplish and we strive for each day. They help us understand where our personal resources go, our time and our energy. They remind us that we are Kingsland. Now, let's take a look at the core value of collective legacy.
Collective legacy. You know, when I think of collective legacy, that core value, I have to think of the other core value called empowered homes. Empowered homes says that the primary training spiritually for all of us takes place in the home. We think about the parents being the primary faith trainers. But not everyone has grown up in a Christian home, nor are they living in a Christian home, but they find themselves here at Kingsland. And we get to be the extended family for those people. Collectively, no matter what generation we're in, whether we're teaching in preschool or children or students, adults, wherever we are, collectively we can make a difference in the spiritual formation of those families. I think about those who started Kingsland many years ago. They saw the value in them collectively making an impact in this community and the world. So today we find ourselves with the same opportunity to collectively make a difference right here and around the world.
Hey, thanks, Pastor Todd, for explaining to us what collective legacy is. Today, I'm joined with a panel to not just talk about collective legacy as a core value that we're striving to accomplish, but we're going to talk about how we see and feel collective legacy here at Kingsland. And I'm joined today by Dennis Wilbanks, our former first gen pastor and teacher, and just amazing, extraordinary human. I got Kayla Self, girls minister, extraordinary human. And then Leslie McWhorter, our children's minister, extraordinary human.
Super
I feel like I couldn't just say that to Dennis and not to you guys either. But I'm so thankful to have you in the room for us to talk about collective legacy as we continue the We Are Kingsland series. So today, as we jump into how do we see and feel this? This isn't just a concept that's on our website. This is something that we live out every single day. So Leslie, we'll start with you. What does collective legacy mean in the children's ministry?
Well, without all of the generations, we would be in trouble. We've got a lot of kids, and we've got teachers that are serving with our kids on Sundays and Wednesdays and special events that are in KSM. There's still students here. We've got young adults, we've got parents, and we've got a lot of first gen. And one of my favorite things that one of our first gen couples told me one time when I asked, what is it about your class that makes it so special? And they said, we think of every kid in our room as our grandkids, and there's nothing more important than our grandkids' salvation. So They are pouring in every week. They're amazing. We've got such a great team in place. One of the other places that we have all our generations is Vacation Bible School. It's pretty huge. We run about 1,400 kids, and so we need a lot of people. We've got all our students serving, and we were looking for a way to have our hallways monitored because it's so many kids moving around to make sure they're safe. And we were trying to figure out who else could we pull in, and that was when First Gen came to mind. There's a lot of people in our First Gen that have a heart to serve. They still want to be vital and be working and serving, but they might not want a room full of 20 screaming first graders. So we pulled them in as our ambassadors, and they man our halls during VBS to make sure that we are all safe and accounted for. And that has been huge.
Yeah, and seeing all the generations helping is a huge thing. But another thing that we do with children's ministry that is kind of falls into our other core value of empowered homes is our third graders. Share about our third graders and why it's important for them to be in the worship service.
Great. That's one of my favorite things we do. We have Bible study in small groups. We really believe in that small group so that kids can get to know their teachers in a relational method and not just from the stage. But at third grade, kids start going to worship with their parents and then come to Bible study the other hour. And the reason for that is not to clear out my halls and make fewer children in the hall. It is that parents are the primary faith trainer, and they should be teaching their child how to worship the Lord. And if we just hold that off until they're older, they've missed out. And they get such great value from sitting next to their parents and watching them and learning how to worship with the whole church body.
Yeah. Bobby, that is so important. And I just wanted to share this. The last few months, we've had our grandkids with us and our great-grandkids. And just a few weeks ago, it was so wonderful watching my grandson holding his daughter, our great-granddaughter, who's 3 years old. She was in worship. And as we was worshiping the Lord, lifting our hands to the Lord, I looked over and saw her lifting her hands to the Lord. Oh, it just broke my heart. Yeah. It's so important, I think, that we have that experience together worshiping.
Collectively, all generations worshiping together is a beautiful thing. It's led on charge by the parents, but to see the generations on stage for our kids, for our families, like I think is a huge part of our collective legacy. It's a big deal. And so, Dennis, you've been doing ministry a long time. You are one of my heroes. For you, what does collective legacy mean?
Thanks, Bobby. I think for first geners, it starts with modeling before the generations that come after ours, living it out every day, so that people see the first generation as those with Jesus' legacy, and they're sharing that legacy. For example, how did Moses know about the things he wrote about in the book of Genesis? His parents were certainly involved, but they were busy making brick. I mean, think about it. So how? Perhaps his grandparents took the time to share with him the stories of God's faithfulness with his people. One of my biggest stories I personally have with collective legacy is that recently I was given the privilege of baptizing my great-grandson. How awesome that was. What a day. I think that we are now at the most important stage of our life journey. We have more influence as people will listen and they want to hear our story. When I was working, people would always hold out their hand and say, "Hey, what do you do?" But now that I'm retired, my identity is less with what I do and it's more with who I am. I get to be who I am, I feel like has a far greater impact. We have the time to listen. When I asked my son about his grandparents' legacy, he said the biggest thing they did for my faith journey, or really just what impacted me the most, is how they lived, not what they did, how they lived. We're faith models. Realizing that as a young adult and parent, I may not have had the best track record, but I feel like that I'm at halftime now and I can make those adjustments and that we can truly finish strong.
Yeah. Making those adjustments, and it's never too late to make those adjustments. And the collective legacy of our first gen, but anybody really, of understanding your role and your part in God's body, and that He needs us and He wants us, and you can make those adjustments is key. Dennis, spot on. Kayla, you serve in student ministry, and you know the culture that we're facing and all the things that we have going on. How is collective legacy seen and felt in our KSM?
So many ways. So I'll just cover a couple. And one of the things that I love about Kingsland is if you come on a Sunday morning, you're going to see so many different generations serving one another, building community, and investing in one another. And so in the student ministry, our hope is that we would come alongside Kingsland's mission and that we would invite all students to experience true fulfillment in Jesus Christ, one home at a time. And so we want to raise kids, students who are rooted and grounded in the gospel of Jesus, and they're living out the truth of His word. And that also means that they are becoming disciple makers, that they're investing in others. And that doesn't just start when they get older. It starts right now. And that's something hopefully that they will be doing until, as they age throughout their whole life. And so currently in our student ministry, we have, I think, over 50 students who are investing in small groups. So they're leading younger kids in our ministry through discipleship. And that happens on a weekly basis. They do that on Sunday mornings or Wednesday nights. But that's not to include all of our junior high and high school kids that aren't just leading on a Sunday morning in our specific area of ministry, but are also leading, as Leslie already said, in different areas of the church, whether that's preschool or children's or special needs or serving in choir, all different kinds of things that they're doing collectively to build that. But we don't just have students. One of the things that I love is that our students are learning to grasp that they want to walk with and follow Jesus. And that also means loving and serving. It doesn't matter if you're a 10th grader serving a 7th grader. That means that they're learning how to be the church and loving and blessing other people of all ages. But we also have a lot of adults that volunteer in our ministry, right? So it's not just kids. We're a really fun world. If you haven't, you should come join us. But we have everything from students loving each other to young adults to parents in our ministry to grandparents in our ministry. And one of my favorite stories of the last several years in our life group ministry specifically is we have a first-gener, an older lady in our church who stepped up to me like 6 years ago. And she was like, hey, I think I want to lead a small group of 6th grade girls. And she started walking with a group of them. They're now 11th grade. I sat with them last Sunday. They love and adore her. Her investment, you can't even quantify how much she's made an impact in these kids' lives. And I think it would be really easy. Dennis is talking about how important it is to continue your legacy, whatever that may be, for her to just say, well, I'm checked out. I did what I needed to do, or I'm not cool enough. I could never understand their culture, or I couldn't have approached these topics, or they wouldn't really love me. She could believe all of those lies, but instead she's chosen to say, no, I'm going to build and impact the generations below me. And I'm going to be faithful to love them and share the gospel with them. And as I said, I love to see the impact that makes across all different generations. So
it's so cool. And, I mentioned the culture because a lot of times that old adults will use that as an excuse of like, just don't get it. I'm not cool.
Right.
It's not cool. Cool is not what we're going after. We're going after Jesus and the gospel and pouring this into the next generation.
And as Dennis said, like the impact of like getting to hear those people's stories, just being able to discredit yourself for really no reason, but to say, man, I'm going to use the wisdom and the years that I followed Jesus to share that with you. What a gift and joy and opportunity we have in whatever season of life to share what God's doing in our life and our heart. So
it's also the stories of failures that we've had, and to see how that even in the midst of that, God's involved in that in our lives to bring grace and mercy.
Yeah, and to bring that legacy and to teach and help others not make those same mistakes. It's good.
It's just good for kids to get to see also that God hasn't changed. The situation you're dealing with now, your parents dealt with a similar one. Your grandparents' generation dealt with a similar situation. The world changes, but God stays the same.
One of the things too that we talked about, when we were prayerfully considering talking about this, is the number. If we have kids that grow up in our church and they exit our ministry, say at 18, and you were to say, hey, if you've ever invested in this child, the number of people across all generations that would be able to raise their hand from different ministries or times is just phenomenal. It's such a beautiful picture of God's kingdom, of all different people loving, investing, everything from, your peers to the people that are older. So,
the collective legacy it's seen and felt throughout everything we do at Kingsland, from babies to worship to missions. We want to see the generations not just together in a room, because we can say, hey, we're a multi-gen church because we have all the different generations. No, we are intergenerational, meaning we are intertwining those generations.
And Bobby, it's not just purposefully. I don't know who designed our hallways in both of our campuses, but they're wide, and it's so awesome to walk down the hallway and see all ages interacting. Sometimes, I'll see a parent that's frazzled because it's been tough getting here. And I'll just smile and say, I love you. You're doing great. Don't give up, and just having those interactions is just awesome of all generations, from student ministry to children to preschool to first gen. It's just really cool.
Collective legacy is definitely in the DNA of Kingsland, and it's a awesome thing. Well, guys, thank you all for having the conversation as we talk about how we see and feel this core value. As we look at our series, We Are Kingsland, our hope is to bring clarity, unity, and encouragement for you today.